can I be a Christian and practice Buddhism at the same time?
You will get various answers from various people. Many Christians, and as you know, we have a rabbi friend who was asking that very same question about, can I be Jewish and be Buddhist? Because we even have a name in America called Bujus or Jubus, because many of the contemporary Buddhist teachers still cling to their Jewish identity. But that's not the question you asked. I would say yes, you can, because I study and practice Christian mysticism, but it holds a little different, and therefore I am able to see Jesus as great bodhisattva, one who comes to takes a vow to help all sentient beings. So I see Jesus as great teacher and great bodhisattva of the Christian tradition. However, that isn't necessarily the answer you would get from a lot of Christians who would say no, particularly if salvation is only by the blood of Jesus for those who accept him. If you go with that more conservative viewpoint, then you would probably get a no answer. I would happen to give you a yes answer.
And then on a final note, how, in the light of modern technologies, we have ethical questions regarding stem cell research, with regard to end-of-life care, assisted suicide. Did you eat a genetically engineered breakfast this morning? Where does Buddhism stand in the light of ethical issues and high technology on one end?
I'm thinking of a particular verse that often tries to sum up Buddhism, and it comes from the Dhammapada, which is the believed to be the sort of early and essential sayings of the Buddha. And one verse that sums up Buddhism says something like this. It says, Buddhism in a nutshell is to, quote, to do good, to shun evil, and to purify the mind. I think most really deep Buddhists realize that that's probably out of order. The tough part is purifying the mind. And people would say, once you get the mind purified, that the doing good and the shunning evil will just sort of naturally follow. That's become more complex in our society with our technological issues. So, trying to think of an example of our question. For example, let's say in our modern society, in our postmodern society, that we have developed the ability to split the atom. And so we developed the ability to build the atom bomb. Did we have the wisdom not to build it? Simply because we are able to, should we have, which I believe you would refer to as an ethical question. We run into the same thing in healthcare, and that is the idea that we have the ability to keep someone alive with no hope of them ever having what we might describe as meaningful life. Should we do it? Now you're into ethical questions. But your question in terms of what a Buddhist driver, the pivotal point from which maybe ethics would start, would be around the question, am I alleviating suffering? And if I am alleviating suffering, then that's a good place to start with saying, is it ethical or not? If I'm prolonging suffering, then a Buddhist would probably say, that's not the goal. The goal of wisdom and compassion, prajna and karuna, are the two wings that fly the bird of Buddhism, and they need to be balanced. So we need to be both wise and compassionate. And sometimes, if we get out of balance, the bird doesn't fly well. So our capabilities technologically and our compassion levels need to be balanced as well.
Very good. Maybe we could end with some of your, if you have any favorite sayings or quotes from religious leaders, not just from Buddhists, but the ones that have influenced you the most.
Well, I tend to be a follower of Joseph Campbell. And I wouldn't call him a religious leader, although Bill Moyers, in doing a film with him, said he was the most spiritual man he ever met. Campbell's advice to his students at Sarah Lawrence College for 38 years was follow your bliss. Now that goes along already conditioned with the notion that you are going to do good and shun evil. So if you're doing those two things and then following your bliss, that sounds practical. The issue with that is, how do we find our own center? How do we get on the journey, the hero or the heroine's journey, that makes our life significant? Campbell's other much less known maxim was, the insecure way is really the secure way. So if I become a lawyer because mom and dad wanted me to, I've not accumulated. The things that I've accumulated are the very things that Buddha says that you're going to lose anyway, which causes suffering. But if I seek after something that's much more fulfilling and has some wisdom and compassion in it, then I don't believe you lose it. So that's the way of finding your center. Robert Frost talks about that spiritual journey as a journey to the center. And he says we all dance in a ring and pose, but the secret sits in the center and knows. So how do we find our center? I think it's Yeats when he talks about it's in the Second Coming, where he says, turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. The center cannot hold, mere anarchy reigns upon the earth. He's talking about a time of this postmodern technological rise where we've lost our balance of wisdom and compassion. And therefore, that's a very pertinent time for the best of wisdom traditions. Not everything that the wisdom traditions say is wise, but collectively, hidden within them is the wisdom of the ages, if we can sort it out from the sort of colloquial rules and sort of meaningless structures that have developed in our postmodern world.
Very good. Well, thank you again, Reverend Dr. Bill Bartlett, for your time and for your wise explanations about Buddhism. And we'll end here. Thank you.